Welcome! In this series of videos we will look at software add-ons for the PowerBasic Windows compiler. Today we will look again at the My Little Grid custom grid and add yet more configuration in the form of a right-click menu and grid sorting. This was our application at the end of the last video. We have a dialog on which there is a My Little Grid custom grid. We have a number of columns displayed and there are 60 rows worth of data. We have added some configuration to the grid to make each row an alternating colour. We also have a drop-down list on the division column, a tick box on the active, and for those entries which have the petrochemical in the division column, there is a drill down button on the surname. However, although we have only 60 rows of data within this grid, it could very well be 600 or 6000. In displaying this kind of information to the user, they may well wish to locate a particular record. And as there are many rows of data, this could be difficult to do. So what we're going to add today is the ability to sort the grid based on any single column. And to do that, we're going to add a pop-up menu to allow the grid to display a pop-up menu when the right mouse button is clicked. So let's have a look at our code to see how we can do this. In the code for the dialog, this is where we're going to start the changes to our code. As you may remember from one of the previous videos, in our dialog creation, we added the My Little Grid control using the control add statement. Just before that, we declared an str menu variable, and this forms part of the configuration when you set up the grid. What we're going to do today is we're going to populate this variable using the /m. /m is the prefix for our menu code. There are three different types of menu. We're going to concentrate on menu 1 today. This is the menu that is generated on the grid itself. The two other menus are for the info bar and for the sheet selector, the tab selector at the bottom of the grid. You can put multiple entries onto one of these pop-up menus. Today we're just going to put 3 entries. One to allow the user to sort based on a column in ascending order. One to allow the user to sort the column in descending order, and a third option to allow you to copy the contents of a cell to the clipboard. And this is how we need to do it. Following the /m1, we put the name of the text we want to have on the first entry on the pop-up. And then it's a comma delimited list. The sort column descending is the next entry. A simple dash will put a horizontal line in the pop-up of the menu, and the final entry, the fourth on the list, is the entry for copying the text to the clipboard. So if we just try running the code now, we'll see that our grid appears as before. However, if we click on one of the columns and then right click, we'll see a new pop-up menu appears with our 3 options: the sort column ascending, sort column descending, and copy cell to clipboard. In the back-end code, these are going to be referred to by their ordinal position in the menu list. Position 1, position 2, and position 4. Position 3 is the horizontal bar, which is not clickable. So now that we have that menu on the screen, we need to add some code in the notify section of our callback function, the event handler. In this event handler, we want to be able to pick up the item that the user has actually clicked on this pop-up. And I'm going to add 3 other variables which I'll explain as we go along. So now we can scroll down to the notify section. The notify section is where we can pick up the events that have occurred on the grid. For example, a user clicking in a row, right-clicking, and so on. Having identified that it is the number 1 grid we have clicked on, since there is only one grid on this dialog, we can pick up which grid event has actually occurred. And in this case, all we have so far is the user button. So we're now going to add another event. This is to pick up the right click for the menu. When this event is triggered, we know the user has right clicked on the grid. We can use the param 1, 2 and 3 to pick up the information we need. Param 1 and 2, as before, pick up the row number and the column number that the user has actually clicked on. The column number in this case is going to be important because that's the column we're going to sort the grid by. And the item number is parameter number 3. This is the menu item number, the ordinal position in the menu. And then we need a simple case statement to actually handle each of these. When my item is equal to number 1, then we know we're going to be sorting this column ascending. My little grid comes with an inbuilt sort command, which is a single line of code. It takes 4 parameters. The grid handle, the message you want to actually do, which in this case is a sort, and we're telling my little grid we want it ascending, and we also give it the column number. So if the user clicks on column number 2, it will sort the grid in ascending order for that column. And after we've actually sorted the grid, we want to refresh it on screen so the user can see the changes straight away. So a simple call to our fun grid refresh function. So if we try running that code now, we'll attempt to do a right click and pick the ascending option. So now that our grid is displayed, we merely have to click on a column, right click, and we get the menu coming up. So we want to click on the first element, sort column ascending. Clicking on that and the column is instantly sorted. So we've now sorted the whole grid by the surname column. We can then do that for any of the columns without any additional code. So it's quite easy to see in this case all the entries where the division is computing. And if you're looking for a particular person, sorting by the surname is an easy way of finding them. So that's us handled ascending sorts. For descending sorts, it's very much the same thing. We merely have to pass it the MLG descending constant as the third parameter. So if we try running that now, we can now sort it in descending order. It's important to point out at this point is that the sorting mechanism is actually an alphanumeric sort. If we attempt to sort the ID column, we'll see that the numbers sort alphabetically and not numerically. We could of course trap the fact that this is a numeric column and build our own sorting routine in, but we'll probably do that in a later video. We'll concentrate on the alphanumeric sorts in here. However, there's one point to note when doing this kind of sorting. We have put some additional configuration into the grid. For example, we said when the division column has a petrochemical setting, then the surname has a drill down button. However, if we sort by the surname column, we'll see that this entry here, which is still petrochemical, no longer has a button. But where it did exist before, the button has not moved. This is because the configuration for this extra information is held in an array in the back end of my little grid, and is not sorted when we actually sort the text in the grid. So if you do have any of this configuration set up for your grid, for example drill down buttons, you will need to actually reapply that logic. So in order for the back-end configuration to match the resorting of the grid, we need to pick up the column number of the surname column which has that drill down button. We'll then call the function to remove the user button from the column. This will blank out any user buttons that you have added. Then we can, as we did before, reapply the conditional adding of the user button, specifically picking up the division column, storing the column number, and then for each entry which has petrochemical in that source column, then we're reapplying the drill down button to the column we've picked up, which is the surname column. And we'll apply exactly the same logic to the descending sort. So now that we have that in place, let's try running the code again. We can check that the drill down button does exist on row 2. We sort on the column ascending, and if we look down here for where row 2 was, we'll see that it now has its button back again, and none of the other non-petrochemical entries has a button. So this has quite happily reapplied our configuration to the back end without any delay. So how can we use the right-click menu to pick up the contents of a grid and copy it to the clipboard? So where my item equals 4, then this is the 4th element of our pop-up menu, where we wish to copy the cell to the clipboard. We can quite easily pick up the contents of the cell that the user has clicked on by using the MLG get command. This takes our 3 parameters, the grid handle, the row number and the column number that the user has actually clicked on, and places the text that comes from the grid into the str text variable. Then we can use 2 inbuilt commands to PowerBasic, the first one to reset the clipboard to clear it out, and the second one to set the text in the clipboard equal to the value we have in str text. And the result of that is passed to long clip result. So as you will see from the help file, the clipboard has a few options. We're using the basic clipboard set text to set the value of the clipboard, and the value it returns in this clip result is either going to be a true or a false. True if we managed to successfully copy to the clipboard, and false if we did not. So let's try running that code now. So if we wish to pick up this person's name here, if we do a right click and copy cell to the clipboard, and then we will launch Notepad and paste the value in. So as we can see, any cell we click on, we can copy the cell to the clipboard and paste it in either with a Ctrl V or with a simple right click and paste in Notepad. This is particularly useful if you have a piece of information which is quite long and difficult to type. A simple right click will grab it out of the grid and you can paste it into any application of your choice. So what we've done today is to extend the functionality of our grid to allow the user to find things easier by sorting on a particular column, either in ascending or descending format. And we've also added an option on the right click to allow the user to copy the contents of a single cell to the clipboard. Hopefully you'll find these functions useful in your applications. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching.